If you were born before 1961, you need to watch this video right now, because what I'm about to share could change your financial situation dramatically. The Department for Work and Pensions has just confirmed something absolutely massive about state pension payments, and money could be landing in your account as early as this week. This isn't clickbait. This is real, verified information that could affect thousands of pensioners across the United Kingdom. Some people are receiving payments of over £10,000, and you might be one of them. Stay with me until the very end of this video because I'm going to explain exactly what's happening, who's eligible, how much you could receive, and most importantly, what you need to do next. Welcome back to Smart Pension UK, where we bring you the latest news and updates about pensions, benefits, and everything related to your financial security in retirement. I'm absolutely thrilled to bring you this information today because it could genuinely make a huge difference to your life or the life of someone you care about. So let's dive straight into this announcement from the DWP. The Department for Work and Pensions has confirmed that new state pension payments are being issued to people born before 1961, and these payments are hitting bank accounts this week. Now, before we go any further, let me be crystal clear about what this actually means and why it's happening. The DWP has been conducting a massive review of state pension calculations for individuals who reached state pension age before April 2016. This review, which has been ongoing since 2021, has uncovered something quite shocking. Thousands upon thousands of people, particularly married women, widows, widowers, and those who turned 80 years old, have been underpaid their state pension for years, sometimes even decades. Now, you might be wondering why this correction specifically affects people born before 1961. The reason is quite straightforward. If you were born before April 1961, you would have reached state pension age under the old state pension system, which was in place before the new state pension was introduced in April 2016. The old system had different rules, particularly around married women's pensions and inherited pensions for widows and widowers. Under the old state pension system, married women had the option to claim a state pension based on their husband's national insurance contributions. When a woman's husband reached state pension age, or when she reached state pension age if he was already receiving his pension, she should have been automatically upgraded to receive 60% of her husband's basic state pension if that amount was higher than what she was receiving based on her own national insurance record. Here's where the problem occurred. The systems at the DWP were supposed to automatically make these increases, but they didn't always work correctly. As a result, thousands of married women continued receiving the lower rate of state pension based on their own contributions when they should have been receiving the higher rate based on their husband's contributions. Let me break down the specific categories of people who are affected by this correction exercise. The first major group is married women whose state pension should have increased when their husband reached state pension age. If you got married before April 2016 and your husband reached state pension age while you were already receiving your state pension, or if you reach state pension age while your husband was already receiving his, you could be affected. The second group includes widows and widowers. When someone passes away, their surviving spouse should inherit a portion of their state pension. Under the old system, widows could inherit all of their late husband's additional state pension and up to half of their basic state pension. However, many widows never received these increases. The systems failed to update their payments, leaving them significantly underpaid for years. The third category is people who turned 80 years old. There's something called the Category D pension, which is a non-contributory state pension paid to people aged 80 and over. When you turn 80, your state pension should automatically increase to at least this minimum level. However, again, the systems didn't always apply this increase correctly. Now, let's talk about the money, because I know that's what you're most interested in. How much are people actually receiving in these correction payments? The amounts vary enormously from person to person, and it all depends on how long you've been underpaid and by how much your weekly pension was short. Some people are receiving arrears payments of just a few £100, while others are receiving life-changing sums of £10,000, £15,000, or even more. I've seen reports of some individuals receiving over £20,000 in back payments. The DWP has stated that they are prioritizing the most serious cases where people have been underpaid the most or for the longest periods. Let me give you a detailed example to illustrate how these underpayments add up. Imagine a woman called Margaret. Margaret retired in 2008 at age 60. She had worked part-time for most of her career while raising her children, so her own national insurance record wasn't complete. When she retired, she started receiving a state pension of around £45 per week based on her own contributions. Margaret's husband John was 5 years older and had already been receiving his full state pension of £115 per week. According to the rules, Margaret should have been receiving 60% of John's basic state pension, which would have been about £69 per week, significantly more than the £45 she was actually getting. Now, if Margaret was underpaid by £24 per week from 2008 until 2024, that's 16 years of underpayments. That works out to approximately £1,248 per year, or nearly £20,000 over the 16-year period. When you see the numbers laid out like this, you can understand why these correction payments are so substantial for many people. Here's another scenario. Consider a widow named Susan. Her husband passed away in 2010. Susan was already receiving her own state pension of £80 per week. Her late husband had built up substantial additional state pension during his career. Susan should have inherited all of his additional state pension, which would have increased her weekly payment by about £40 to £120 per week. However, the system never applied this increase. For 14 years, from 2010 to 2024, Susan has been underpaid by £40 every single week. That's £2,080 per year, totaling over £29,000 in arrears. These are real scenarios that are happening to real people across the United Kingdom right now. The fantastic news is that if you fall into one of these categories, you probably don't need to do anything at all. The DWP is conducting an automated, systematic review of all state pension records. They're using computer systems to identify people who should have received higher payments and didn't. If the DWP identifies that you've been underpaid, they will contact you directly by letter. This letter will contain several important pieces of information. First, it will explain that you've been underpaid and why the underpayment occurred. Second, it will tell you exactly how much you're owed in arrears. Third, it will confirm what your new, correct weekly state pension payment will be going forward. Finally, it will give you information about when you can expect to receive the arrears payment. The arrears are typically paid as a single lump sum directly into the bank account where you currently receive your state pension. For most people, this will be the same account where their regular pension payments arrive every 4 weeks. The payment should show up with a reference indicating it's from the DWP. However, and this is really important, if you believe you should be included in this review but you haven't heard anything from the DWP, don't just sit and wait. You have the right to contact the pension service and request that they review your state pension calculation. There's a dedicated helpline for state pension queries, and the advisors there can look into your case. When you contact them, make sure you have your national insurance number ready. You should also have information about your circumstances prepared. For example, if you're a married woman, know the date you got married and when your husband reached state pension age. If you're a widow or widower, have the date of your spouse's death available. If you're over 80, mention that specifically. Let's talk about the timeline of this whole correction exercise. This issue first came to light in 2020 when an independent review examined how the DWP calculates state pensions. The review found systematic errors in how married women's pensions, widows' pensions, and over 80s pensions were being calculated and paid. In 2021, the DWP acknowledged these errors and committed to a full correction exercise. They estimated that around 134,000 people had been underpaid, with a total value of approximately £1.46 billion. Since 2021, the DWP has been working through these cases in batches. The payments arriving this week represent one of the latest batches in this ongoing process. The DWP has committed to completing all corrections by the end of 2025. Now, let's address taxation. Yes, these arrears payments are taxable income. However, The DWP doesn't just add all the arrears to your current year's income, which would push many people into higher tax brackets. Instead, they calculate the tax due on the arrears based on the years to which the payments relate. The DWP works directly with HMRC to calculate this tax, and in most cases, the tax is deducted from the arrears payment before it reaches you. What should you do when you receive one of these payments? First and foremost, read the letter from the DWP very carefully. Make sure you understand the explanation of why you were underpaid and what your new ongoing payment will be. Keep all the documentation safe. File the letter somewhere you can find it easily because you might need it for your records or for tax purposes. If you're receiving other benefits, particularly means-tested benefits like pension credit, housing benefit, or council tax reduction, an increase in your state pension could affect your entitlement to these benefits. The DWP should automatically notify the relevant departments, and your benefit payments should be adjusted accordingly. However, it's worth keeping an eye on this to make sure everything is updated correctly. This entire situation has revealed some serious administrative issues within the DWP. These underpayments happened because the computer systems didn't automatically trigger increases when people's circumstances changed. Since discovering these problems, the DWP has implemented new processes and system improvements to prevent similar errors in the future. However, this experience teaches us an important lesson. Never assume that your state pension is definitely correct. When major life events happen, such as getting married, becoming widowed, or reaching significant birthdays like your 80th, it's worth checking with the pension service to confirm that your state pension has been updated appropriately. Let me address one concern that some people have expressed. Some viewers have worried that if they come forward to claim these underpayments, they might face some kind of penalty or investigation. Let me be absolutely clear about this. You will not face any negative consequences for claiming money you're legally entitled to. These underpayments were errors made by the DWP, not anything you did wrong. If you're watching this video and thinking about elderly parents, grandparents, or friends who might be affected, please share this information with them. One of the biggest challenges with this correction exercise is making sure that all the people who are entitled to these payments actually know about it. Many older people don't use the internet regularly and might not see news coverage about this issue. A simple conversation where you explain what's happening could help someone you care about claim thousands of pounds they're rightfully owed. So there you have it, a comprehensive breakdown of everything you need to know about the DWP's confirmation of new state pension payments for people born before 1961. This is genuinely one of the most important pension stories of recent years, and it could make a real difference to thousands of families across the United Kingdom. If you found this video helpful, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe to Smart Pension UK. We're dedicated to bringing you the latest news and advice about pensions and benefits. Hit that notification bell so you never miss important updates like this. If you have questions or want to share your experience, please drop a comment below. I read every comment and try to respond to as many as possible. Remember, knowledge is power, especially when it comes to your financial future. Thank you so much for watching Smart Pension UK. Take care and make absolutely sure you're getting everything you're entitled to. I'll see you in the next video.